And welcome back to Zach Talks Hawks. My name is Zach, and this is a place where we talk everything Seattle Seahawks football, as well as some other things here on the channel. It is good to be back here with you on YouTube because I've been away for quite a little while. The 2 weeks ago I was sick, and then this past week I've been struggling with trying to get sound balance right here through OBS, so I still haven't quite figured it out yet. Your NCAA 14 Gonzaga football dynasty gameplay has not been up, mainly because I'm still running into issues with gameplay capture and trying to catch sound, but this is pretty straightforward. We have a game to talk about as Seattle moves to 4-3, believe it or not, and just like everybody planned, are on top of the NFC West as they defeat the LA Chargers 37-23 in a game that a lot of people tagged for being one of the better games of the week going in, and I personally thought, okay, it's either going to be a really good game or Seattle's just going to lay an egg, and man, did they show up today. And so let's talk about a couple things here on the show, just a game at a glance before we get into our takeaways for today. But first things first are these two guys right here. If you watch this game at all, you got to see a show between Marquise Goodwin, a Seattle Seahawks pickup that really hasn't produced a lot until today, until his number was called upon. He needed to show up big because DK Metcalf left the game early in the first quarter with an apparent knee ligament injury. It's not as bad as many people thought it would be, but he very well might be out for quite a few weeks, a little bit of time. So it's good to see that Marquise Goodwin is out here performing well, and Geno Smith, man, found him early and often in this game. We'll talk about Goodwin's stats later on, but he showed up in a big way, as well as that man, Kenneth Walker III, the rookie, and what a show did he put on. And we're going to talk about him later on in our takeaway, but these two, I think, are the key to today's game. They were the ones that made the offense go, and of course the defense played pretty well. And let's talk about that defense here for just a moment, because if you watch this game as well, you got to see a masterclass on defense as well. Pressure getting to Justin Herbert. You're able to force turnovers. We saw an interception. We saw fumble recoveries. We saw strip sacks. It was weird because as a Seahawks fan this season, we really haven't been treated to very good defensive play. We thought we saw it a little bit against Arizona, but kind of figured between Kyler Murray and Cliff Kingsbury there'd be a rift there. So perhaps it's not as good as advertised. Well, going into Los Angeles, now I know that's not saying a lot nowadays, but going into Los Angeles and beating a pretty good Charger team on defense is a story worth talking about. We'll talk about that here later on in the show. And then let's take a quick look here at stats to just get us ready for my takeaways for Seattle's 37-23 victory over Los Angeles. Here specifically on the offensive side are the stats that I want to focus on. Some stats on defense that you might be made known about. There are more than a few Seahawks getting sacks on the day, as we talked about earlier. Defensive pressure was a big thing all day. Ryan Neal got an interception in this one. There were multiple opportunities for Woolen to get another pick, and there were a lot of hungry defenders out there for today's game. But I do want to focus here on Seattle's offensive stats very quickly for you. Geno Smith continues his torrid start for the season. He did what he was told to do. He got 27 attempts on the day. He completed 20 of them. He got 210 yards, threw two beautiful touchdowns to Goodwin, had another one dropped by Noah Fant, and had a couple interceptions dropped throughout today's game, admittedly, but Geno gets away with a few, and he played smart football once again today. Geno Smith showing the world why putting a quarterback in and saying, hey, you're not going to throw 55 times a game is still a valid way to win in the National Football League. Seattle showing why here with this offensive balance as seen through the run game. The run game, we get to see Kenneth Walker III, of course, ripping off that 74-yard run here at the end of the game, bolsters his stats, but again, he's got over 150 yards on the day. He had 2 touchdowns. DJ Dallas was able to carry the rock a little bit more in today's game. I like the balance as we're seeing out of Seattle's offense. You're going to go with the hot hand, but you're also going to make sure that your star back, so to speak, gets featured as often as possible. And Geno did a good job spreading the ball out today. I thought he found Tyler Lockett a lot more than what he's typically done this season, so that gives me some confidence that perhaps Lockett's not going to fade into obscurity in this offensive unit, but rather he's still going to continue to be that crafty guy getting those catches. Just not the yardage that we're normally used to seeing, but that's okay as long as they keep winning games. That's totally fine by me. And of course, Goodwin catching those deep touchdown passes this game. Definitely something worth noting. Now let's take a look at our rundown here for my takeaways for this really impressive Seattle Seahawks victory over the LA Chargers. First things first is we have said ad nauseum on this channel that Seattle needs to find their identity both offensively and defensively in order to win football games. The teams that are good right now in the NFL, which begrudgingly so, there are not many of them, they know who they are. Now, you can be an air-it-out attack team, kind of like a Big 12 school, and go after it and say we're going to score 55 points a game and hold on and hope for the best. And I was afraid that was kind of what Seattle was looking at for their offense and kind of throwing this defensive blueprint out of the window. But if the last 2 weeks have taught me anything as a Seahawks fan, it's that Pete Carroll is not afraid to talk a big game and back it up. He is coming out of the gate now saying we are going to be a fast defensive unit. Now, they are very young. They're young on both sides of the ball, but man, does that rookie class look stout. And that defense sometimes gives up big plays, but the last couple of weeks we've seen Seattle's defense sort of come into their own. They play scrappy on the outside, and they want to shut down the running game in terms of coming right up the middle. And they're a bend, don't break defense. Something I was really encouraged with this Chargers game is that Seattle didn't wait till goal line situations to really execute their defensive plan. They were very opportunistic on the outside. The corners are starting to trust their playmaking ability. They're starting to jump routes. They're starting to create those big play opportunities, getting turnovers. Bruce Irvin, man, he is back on this defense, and it's no coincidence, I think. He joined the team the week of the Arizona Cardinals, and guess what? Seattle miraculously gets a pass rush, and he wasn't even playing. I think his presence among these young pass rushers created a big locker room change for these guys. It kind of gave them confidence. Hey, you can do this job. You can get after the quarterback. And then this week, we actually saw Bruce Irvin in the game, and he was making tackles, and he was flying around the field. And again, the pass rush is very evident, and it's this electric, fast, opportunistic defense that does get burnt, but is okay with giving up the big yardage if it winds up 3 points for the other side. And there was a lot going into this game that as Seattle fans, we should have probably met this game with a lot more fear and trepidation than what we should have, because there are a lot of folks saying, oh, this is going to be a great game. Los Angeles is no joke. They got a lot of good offensive playmakers on that side of the ball, and had every opportunity to take advantage of Seattle's inexperience defensively. And yet Seattle's defense stepped up and continually said throughout the day, we're not going to wait for you to get into the red zone to actually play defense. And that is a huge step in the right direction, I think, for this team. A team that doesn't tolerate huge yards being put out, but rather is stingy and is flying to the ball and is opportunistic. I rather Seattle get burnt trying to make plays than slowly get charred as the game goes along because they don't want to make plays. And I think we saw that at the beginning of the year where they just kind of rolled over and said, okay, we'll let you march down the field, just don't hit us deep. And this week we got to see a defense that flew to the ball, was opportunistic, and really got after it. So that's their identity defensively. But offensively, oh my goodness, they have cemented themselves as one of the best teams in the league in terms of running the football and being physical up front. And dare I say, Geno Smith really fits very well into this offensive scheme, and I think could very well affect the Seahawks' future. Maybe we're not going to go out there and snag a quarterback in this draft as high as we think, because Geno Smith is playing really well under this offensive scheme. Don't put the world on his shoulders. Let him make a few plays. There were some throws in this game where, again, you just had to sit back and go, wow, I did not expect that throw from Geno. And I can think of in this game, Noah Fant is double covered deep down the field, and Geno leads Fant in between two defenders, hits Fant in the hands, and Fant doesn't bring it in, and otherwise it might have very well could have been a touchdown. And Geno continues to make great throws because the world's not on his shoulders. They are a run-first team, and they are unapologetic about it. In the first half, the offense sort of struggled to find its rhythm on the ground, put a little bit more on Geno's shoulders than what I thought was necessary, but ultimately they found the running game later on in this contest and just kept pounding. And ultimately, we got to see what happens to a football team that prioritizes the run and does it well. We got to see Kenneth Walker line up 74 yards between him and the end zone, and he went for it, man. It was so great to see Seattle go, we're going to run the clock. We're going to dare you to stop us. We're up by a couple possessions. We're just going to try to be better than you. We're going to try to outrun you. We're going to try to be the better, more physical, hard-nosed football team. It's been a long time since we've seen the Seattle Seahawks play that brand of football, because the last few years have been let Russ cook. Let's be that pass-first offense and try to claw our way back into games. Something I've noticed about this team, we don't have the same heart palpitation games as we used to anymore. We're not frantically trying to claw our way back into the game in the last 5 minutes. We're not in these nail-biting games anymore, but rather the team plays with a poise that says, we're in the lead, let's run the ball. We're going to dare you to stop us, and let's see what happens. I'd much rather, as a fan, root for a game like that than be worried every week and be put through all that stress. And yet, here we are. A run-first offense and an opportunistic defense. I think the Seahawks have found their identity, and here sitting at 4-3, they're making it work for them. Let's talk about that rookie, Kenneth Walker III. He's had back-to-back weeks of stupendous play, and he was able to showcase his talent all throughout the day. What I really like about Walker is he is shifty in the backfield. He makes sure that more often than not, the first guy never really brings him down. He does have some issues that I personally don't like in terms of being a runner in the backfield. He's kind of got that early Saquon Barkley problem where every time he gets the ball, he's too patient. He's dancing around in the backfield. He's trying to find that home run hitter every single time he gets the ball. And being a running back, that's great and all, but sometimes you just need a couple yards. I think of the safety that happened in this game where they line up and it's a pull play. Arguably, the guard misses the pull, but Kenneth just needs to go forward. He just needs to hit the hole as hard as he can. And sometimes that's not his first reaction. Sometimes it's just to be patient, shift around, make a guy miss, and keep going. We got to see a lot of times in this game that pay off. But when Seattle's backed up in their own territory, sometimes you just need a couple yards, man, and just put your head down and go forward. I think he's going to work on that in the next few weeks. I'm sure that coaching is going to take a look at that safety play and go, what could have we done different in terms of offensive matchups on the line? And then, Walker, what do you need to do to just get out of the end zone? And I think a lot of it will have to boil down to don't dance so much in the backfield. Sometimes you just need to go and hit that hole and make sure that you get a couple yards. But this guy is a huge talent, and I'll be the first one to say I was wrong when it comes to picking this guy up in the draft. At the time, circumstances were different, right? You paid Chris Carson. We assumed he would be back. You brought Rashad Penny back in and made the commitment to say, okay, we're going to go with 2 running backs. And then Seattle picks up Walker in the draft, and you go, what in the world are we doing? We have so many running backs, and there's a lot of money wrapped up in this position. And Walker's worth every penny, man. If that joke, man, I hope that joke goes viral. Walker is worth every penny. Yep, he is. We have 2 really talented backs on the roster. Of course, we don't know what's going to happen with Rashad Penny moving forward based on his injury. It is pretty gruesome, and Kenneth Walker might just be RB1 until the end of time, and I don't have a problem with that at all. I know that many fans are instantly loving this kid, and he's a hard runner, so definitely fits the philosophy that Pete wants to bring to this team. Our third takeaway today is this weird feeling of hope that we're getting right now as Seahawks fans. Is this team actually good? I don't know. I think that this team needs to go toe-to-toe with the New York Football Giants of all teams, because the NFL is insane this year, and see what we can do. See how we can match up. They're going to be put to the test with Saquon Barkley in the backfield for New York, of course, and we'll see if this defense plays opportunistic on the corner coverage. I think that they can really play a great game against New York. Defensively speaking, they're gonna be out there quite a bit because New York has the same philosophy as Seattle does: be a predominant run first team and then be opportunistic on defense. I think it's gonna be a great matchup. It's gonna feel like an old school football game. I don't think it's gonna be one of those Big 12 shootout games, and honestly, that needs to be flexed. That needs to be the game of the week. Seattle versus the New York Giants of all teams. I don't think anybody would have expected that going into this season, but this team needs to figure out how to deal with good vibes now, where the world was against them, but now the world's starting to take a look out west and go, they're NFC West leaders right now, and now the conversation is, can this team win the division? This is a young team. They have to put one game at a time in front of them and not listen to anybody else and make sure they keep moving forward. You can't get a big head going into games going, oh, we're gonna beat these guys, we're gonna thump them good. Sometimes young teams fall into that. They buy into the hype and they fall to the wayside because they're not focused on the game right in front of them. I take a look at the Jacksonville Jaguars this year, right? Jacksonville, young nucleus of a team, new head coach, a lot of excitement, but not a lot of expectations. And they started out really hot, and instantly the media kind of gravitated towards Jacksonville and said, look what they're doing. And now they're kind of falling back to the median of how they should be playing. I think Seattle's playing far above expectations, far above, honestly, where they should be playing, but they can't buy into the hype. You can't get a big head. You got to stay humble and keep on the grind. And I think they have enough veteran leadership in the locker room that they can make that happen. I'm super excited to see that. And honestly, whatever we get from here on in is icing on the cake. As Seattle moves to 4-3, they are on top of the NFC West, as everybody predicted. And Now we're getting into the stretch of the season where the rubber's going to meet the road. This team's going to be stressed and tested, and we're going to see if this team's for real here in the next few weeks. I hope you are as excited as I am to keep talking Hawks. And until we meet again, my name is Zach, and yeah, that's it. Keep a lookout for our regularly scheduled updated schedule as we continue throughout the week, and hopefully I get my sound issues fixed, and I will see you again real soon. Like, comment, and subscribe. Bye.